The safety lesson this week is be calm, breathe. And the message we're trying to get across is that when we're upset, we tend to breathe differently. When you're angry, you breathe differently. When you're sad, you breathe differently. And that's part of the process of being upset. And then sometimes we make decisions or choices or take actions that we realize later were less than wonderful. And so the idea here is when you feel yourself starting to become upset, it's going to start in your body. And to get into that, you breathe differently. If you breathe angry, you're going to tend to feel angry. If you breathe in a frightened way, you're going to tend to feel more frightened, and then it becomes part of the cycle. One of the things we can do to break that cycle is change the way we're breathing. And so we're going to have the kids role play some of those, that way of behaving, that way of breathing. And then we're going to breathe differently and see that that feels differently. So the safety lesson is when you feel yourself starting to become upset, which means you may be moving in the direction of doing something foolish, let's catch ourselves early, stop, and be calm. Breathe. Good deep breathing seems to be a wonderful reset button. The character lesson for this week is attitude of gratitude. And there's one of these old stories that if you could talk to a goldfish, and there's a goldfish swimming around in the bowl, and you said, "Hey, Mr. Goldfish, what do you think about that water?" Odds are the goldfish would look at you and say, "What water?" Because they've always been in the water. They wouldn't know what not water would be like. By the same token, most of us have had pretty soft, cushy lives. Your bad days are better than most people's good days. And it's so easy for us to forget that because it's always been that way. We've ridden around in cars our whole lives. You know, living on horseback is a little harder, and doing it on foot is a bigger challenge still. We've got a whole generation of kids now. They don't remember when phones plugged into the wall, much less before you had a telephone at all. None of these kids have ever been hungry. We live in the only time in the history of mankind that we've got overweight homeless people. And so we've got it pretty good. And when we put it in that context, I think sometimes we realize how silly some of our complaining is. And so I think there's some real value in just learning to remind ourselves of all the good things that are already going on that we forget because we're so accustomed to them. So attitude of gratitude, right? Remember the good stuff. And I think that that's a great homework assignment. First thing in the morning, just sort of discipline yourself to develop the habit. Let me think of 2 or 3 or 4 things that are like, wow, this is really good stuff. Hey, my body works. Isn't that nice? I've got a bed, I've got a roof, I didn't get rained on last night. And I know that may seem silly, but those are all wonderful things for us to remind ourselves about. And if you play this game with the kids, they come up with some pretty good stuff as well. And then same idea. Getting ready to go to bed, 3, 4, 5 things, maybe things that happen today or just in general that you're appreciating, giving value to, reminding yourself about the good stuff. So, safety lesson, be calm, breathe. Character lesson, attitude of gratitude, remember the good stuff.